Hi, Misha here, and we're continuing on looking closer at troopers. And we've already looked at the hot weather trooper, the desert trooper, and now we're going to look at his kind of polar opposite, the snowtrooper. First seen, of course, in Empire Strikes Back, and then we see him in The Force Awakens and new movies, Solo, and even clone versions. These guys operate when it's, cold or high altitude or just otherwise unpleasant. And they are considered an elite and specialized division, including being part of the 501, 501st. And actually, let's begin there with good old Captain Rex. Here we are with Rex. This is, of course, the one from the Bad Batch. And I picked Rex to represent the cold weather or Arctic clone troopers because we don't have a dedicated Arctic trooper, but he is wearing the poncho, and Rex actually did lead Arctic troopers during the Clone War, and actually they were kind of later evolutions of the clones as the need arose on various worlds. In fact, the last batch of clones that were decanted from Kamino were turned into clone Arctic troopers, and they had some sub-variants, but basically, they're exactly what you'd expect. They had more insulated armor, more specialized armor. The breathing filters in their masks were designed for the cold. Heaters were involved, and their weapons, I gave him a DC-15S, were updated to work more properly, especially the optics if they had scopes in the cold. And like I said, I thought the poncho version of Rex was a good representation of it. He's a neat figure. He has the extra pouch and stuff under here, kind of bulbous, which the Arctic Troopers did have. So he will do until we get one. Plus, I mean, it's Rex. Who doesn't like Rex? And I've never shown you Rex here. His helmet is removable. He has magnifiers and an aiming thing, both. He's one of the few clones that has both. He also has DC-17 pistols on his hip. He doesn't actually come with a DC-15, but I have plenty of these, so I give him one. I thought the smaller carbine was better suited for this environment. Here, typical Black Series figure. Very nicely done, in my opinion. I know some prefer the older Rex, that's fine, but I actually kind of like this one because he has more accoutrement, and he's later Rex after his chip was removed, at least if you go by the canon. But yeah, this is where the cold weather began, and we see him in the Clone Wars and Bad Batch. So relatively new. But now we can go to the second film ever made. This is the classic Arctic Trooper, Cold Weather Assault Trooper, or Snowtrooper we know and love. He's been in the Black Series since very early on. He's been re-released in the archive, and he's pretty darn cool. And a lot of the clones' later cold weather gear resembles this. The Kama kind of evolved into more of this insulated waistcoat with pouches on it. He does have a thermal detonator on his butt. He has a backpack that contains energy cells and heating equipment for the entire outfit, as well as rations. In fact, he's so well appointed that with the conservation of resources, these guys can last 1 to 2 weeks out in the field. They were designed for that. They also have homing beacons and other survival gear like grappling hooks, rappelling devices, crampons, because the cold. Their boots are also made for extra grippiness on ice, snow, treacherous terrain, mountainous terrain. In my notes, I write that they have insulated pants, which you can tell here with the patterning. And they have what I call space pockets. So they have extra storage on their pants. They're insulated. Interestingly, their body glove is actually white instead of, excuse me, the standard black. And they have a thicker chest piece. They actually have rank insignia displayed. They're one of the few Stormtroopers that do. Moving up to the head, the helmet is quite different. It has air intakes that are heated, so they're not sucking in subarctic air. And the goggle pieces, the lenses, have polarization, filtration. They're basically sunglasses because of reflection from the snow. So they are very well trained and outfit here. And they use the standard E11 blaster, although maybe adapted a bit for the cold. That's the standard Snowtrooper. The so-called elite version actually carries the DTL-20A blaster rifle with optic. And some can also carry the SC-14R repeating blaster. So, yeah, whatever you like. And the heavy version, we see them setting these up, carry the E-Web blasters, but this figure does not come with that, unfortunately. But he does come with the small gun and the big, plus the backpack and the kind of insulated comma thing here. It's plastic, but it's got a patterning to it. So you can either set him up as a standard grunt or an elite. I don't know why, but I kind of always picture these guys with the E11. For some reason, mine fits better in his left hand, the E11 that is. But it is a little loose either way because I think the kind of more gloved nature. But that's alright. That's why I usually put them in two hands and it'll stay on just fine. But, yeah, these guys were used by the Empire really throughout, not just on Hoth, although that's what made them famous. In fact, they jumped right into Hoth. You could tell that they had cold weather training, some of them even riding speeder bikes, because that would be fun. But they had very insulated armor. They were very professional, very well trained. And again, they were part of the 501st with Vader there. Seems interesting to me that Star Destroyers would just carry cold weather trained troopers all the time. But I guess they're big enough they could. Because they didn't know they were going to Hoth until the probe droid reported back. But it's neither here nor there. But really cool figure. And I think anyone who played the old Shadows of the Empire game got used to seeing these guys during the Hoth mission. And the Black Series does him justice. He's a little bit limited on his articulation compared to some of the others. Part of it is he's an older figure. Part of it is just the helmet and the comma and everything else. But, yeah, the Snowtrooper. He does kind of have a related colleague, though. Meet the Arctic Trooper, commonly known as the Range Trooper. And this was a figure I wasn't super excited to get, but once I got him, I actually really like him. He's unique, and he's in very bulky gear. And he was definitely suited for the cold. Now, these range troopers, the core was set up during the Empire's earlier days is kind of a way to monitor outlying planets where rebellion might kick up. They were meant to operate independently, and they had very thick, durable gear, stuff that didn't need regular maintenance, and they were considered very tough and hardy. But you can tell by his outfit, he's designed to more or less work in the cold. He has a similar type of comma. It is split. He has these big boots, which are magnetic, and also have gripping surfaces, so you can climb a mountain or clip to a metal surface, and they're, of course, whatnot. They're just kind of big space snowshoes. He has kind of a data pad on his gauntlet here. Very padded, very thick. He has this flocking around, and his chest piece is almost identical to the standard Snowtrooper. And his helmet is an interesting combination of Snowtrooper and kind of Shore Trooper, but it's meant for the cold. And he carries the E10R, which is an updated, more robust variant of the E10, which is the predecessor to the E11. He was in Solo, although quite briefly, but I actually like the design, and I think he definitely fits in as a Snowtrooper, as an Arctic Trooper. What do you think? Next up, the First Order Snowtrooper, or Cold Weather Assault Trooper. Very much inspired by the original, especially his backpack. It has a very, very similar look to it and serves a similar purpose as a generator and emergency supplies, extra ammunition. He has a similar type of waistcoat or comma, although it's more of a slick versus patterned affair. He also has boots with gripping surfaces, and he has insulated space pants with pockets, space pockets. And the insulation continues up, having a special chest piece. His helmet is also specialized. It has more of a slit versus goggle lenses, but they are polarized. He has the special intakes for warming the air. Very similar. You know, typical mobility. His head's a little more mobile on this figure than the other one. Doesn't quite come down as much. Still has a bit of a hood in the back, though. And he carries almost the standard F11D. The figure comes with the version that has a stock attached, an optic. It's said that these have anti-fogging optics on them, and they also have heat shunting things to keep the weapon from freezing up in the cold. Externally looks the same, but in universe they're modified for the cold, which is realistic. I mean, cold does funny things to firearms and presumably blasters too. He doesn't seem to have a thermal detonator over his butt, though. He just has these two big pouches. I'm not sure if these carried ordnance, and I don't see a place where he could really carry a blaster or pistol, but maybe under the comma. It's kind of a shame that these didn't have the little slit on their pants to attach a secondary gun under the comma. I think that'd look kind of neat. Either way, picked this guy up really cheap, like $10 shipped, and for that, he's pretty cool. And very much a iteration of the Snowtrooper, but we have one more to look at. This is the Elite Snowtrooper from the Rise of Skywalker. These guys weren't just on the Starkiller base in the original film. For some reason, they were also on Crate, which was not a snow planet, but that's on here and there. And we see them occupying worlds and other parts of the sequel trilogy. So this guy was in the final film, and the figure himself is the same figure, but he has this honestly pretty cool overcoat. It's very long, actually very thick. And what I thought was neat is the backpack. It has its own kind of overlay too, kind of a cloth separate piece that goes over it to kind of keep the look. And it is removable, just as on all the others. And he comes with the standard F11D with the stock, but I thought since he's an elite guy, let's give him the smaller carbine versions. I swapped it with another guy. These molds they come with do have the slot where they could peg into a hip piece if on a figure if these guys had them, but they didn't. So it's on the standard gun. But these elite guys, I like to think of them because they have the coat. They're more long-range patrol. It could also be used to better camouflage them. But again, for what I paid, because at one time you could get the First Order stuff very inexpensive. He is on the older body, so, you know, the joints don't have as much flexibility as newer ones. They did finally give us an updated First Order Trooper body, but that took a while, and it wasn't the snow version. But, yeah, just more of a long-range guy. Don't know much about him otherwise. I think he's worth having if he's a few bucks. Why not? And there you have it, guys. So let's wrap this up. I slightly cheated using Rex to represent the clones, but I wanted to mention that there were the clone units. And some might debate about including the range trooper, but I definitely think he's kitted out for cold weather, and I wanted to do something to kind of represent the story films, Rogue One / Solo. I like his design. And, you know, I actually do like the First Orders. So which is kind of your favorite? For me, it's hard to get away from the classic Cold Weather Trooper from Empire Strikes Back, but I kind of like all of these. They're neat. Troopers are fun. It'd be neat if we had a variant for the E-Web Blaster or Assault Blaster, but of course I could just pull one off another one, I suppose, put it on. Good army builders and what have you. And like I said, Blizzard Force was at Hoth. We saw them piloting speeder bikes and AT-STs, and they were on the AT-ATs and were pretty prominent in the first part of the film. And they popped up here and there in other things, video games and pieces of canon. So, yeah, let's discuss Snowtroopers below. As always, appreciate you hanging out today. If you could, like, share, subscribe. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.